Thank you very much, Louis. Thank you very much for coming back from the coffee break. So let's start. We have a very strict program also for this session. So, my flying wheel, we have many flying wheels to keep the city running, to keep ourselves running. So my flying wheel is on smart data as a flying wheel. We talked about data. So the question is still, how much data do we need? More data, more confusion, and based on all the discussions and the presentations, so it's not only data, different kinds of sources to get the data. We already know the data is not new, it's not something that we found out just yesterday, it's an old story, but how to get all the data or to produce new data, and what kind of resources can we bring together? So not only focusing on one resources to integrate the whole thing. As you can see, structured, unstructured data, different kinds of level of resources that can produce or give us more data that we can transform into information. So, how to organize big data, and if we talk how to organize big data, and also about how to measure data and where should we put the focus on. So, this is a statement, big data, small decisions, and the question here is, does data complexity create a barrier to policy simplicity? So I would like to start with Peter Vervest. I would like to give you 5 minutes to respond on this statement and question. Please, go ahead.
Karima, can I first congratulate you on this beautiful setup and this completely incomprehensible question?
Of course.
It all depends. I'd like to quote Obama, the former president of the United States, in citing at Senator Mohani, who said, "You are entitled to your own facts, but you are not you are entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts." Yeah? So I think that we should actually, based on the data, we should try to develop information, knowledge, wisdom, and then think about what policies we do. And this requires a retraining of our policymakers, because they usually think they are wise, and then they take a decision. And I'd like to give you a short example of that. Is that fine?
Absolutely.
And that is a call for action to the Cities for People. And if you can get the video, because I made a video specific for you, Karima.
Thank you very much. I feel honored.
And there's no sound to it. This is Eindhoven, and we always have got problems with traffic. It's not as bad as in some parts of the world. But what we need to do is develop smart mobility. And increasingly we get data on that. But we don't have the algorithms or the understanding of self-organizing systems. And the video will carry on with a robotic experiment with thousands of small robots and trying to see if the robots collectively can be programmed to behave like a swarm in whatever shape you would like. Oh gosh, we're still there, yeah? Don't pay attention to this. This is just wallpaper, so pay attention to Karima. She looks so smart and so beautiful, Karima. Self-organizing systems. So what can we do in order to get that going? Now, we all know that we will have the autonomous car, and hopefully we will. In this little country, the Netherlands, which rightfully Peter Nijkamp called a big city, or Alexander called it a big city, we have 8 million cars. The average utilization of the car is 5%. Yeah? That is a 95% waste. When those 5% are on the roads, that's about the maximum of traffic jams, we've got about 800,000 cars on the roads. If I lie in commission. Yeah? And this is a very complicated car. Some people call it a combustion car, others call it an explosion car. It's got about 2,000 components. The electrical car has got no emissions and only 25 components. Mm-hmm. So we should make that transition quickly. And there's one specific place where we can do that. And that is in public transport. You know, this is a hobby horse of mine.
Yeah.
But I really believe that in public transport we can do that. And policymakers are completely wrong here. Because what they do is they sell, they call it licensing. They give you a license to operate, to kill, yeah? And then you've got to run according to certain timetables and routing tables. And they prescribe that. Irrespective of whether there are people in the bus or not, you must be there. And that's what they check, because if you don't do that, you get a fine. This is wrong policy. What they should say is, this is the boss, you've got about, how many people in the boss actually? You've got about 400,000 people in all the neighborhood. Get us from A to B, and do it right in 99% of the cases, and it shouldn't cost me more than this or that, and have that organized. And how you do this sort of mobility as a service, etc., that's up to you. Yeah? And to my big surprise, they've started an experiment, and that's absolutely great, in Helmond. Of all places in the world, they've started an experiment with the Flexbus. But they do not have the right data. So a Flexbus ticket will cost you €3, whilst it actually should be a fraction of that price, because the whole objective is to increase the loading of the buses. Anyone knows what the loading is of buses in the Netherlands? It's anywhere between 6% and 16%. Of course we've got peak hours and peak problems. But this is what we should address. And data can help. And policymakers should take that sort of challenge really serious. That's my takeaway.
Okay.
Should I hand the wheel over? Or?
I would like to, yes, I would like, thank you very much, Peter. And I have a question for you, perhaps very quickly. Is there a level of further development of smart mobility between developed economies and developing world? Think about that. Would you like to react immediately? Okay, sure.
They are far more advanced in India. You could see that. They use every available seating capacity of the train. So,
yeah.
And there's no rules on that. It's completely self-organized. So yes, I think they are far smarter than we are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. We will come back to you. I would like now to invite Harry van Dorenmalen. Please. Your reaction, please, on this statement and on his speech.
Listen, I was born and raised in IBM, so per definition I will state that any use of data will help simplifying the world. Yeah? So that's my first statement. The point I'd like to make, though, is that we talk a lot about big data and data, but to me it's more relevant what's the impact of all this knowledge and this technology. So I come down to the following. I mean, we all like in this world, if you will, world peace. That's the final stage, we always say. But then you go back and we see that the world comes to 9 billion people. And then the question is, how do you think these 9 billion people will work, will live, will eat, will drink, etc.? If you then drill it down to where we are today, then we really know what needs to be done. And my logic is quite simple. We need to invest in what I call infrastructure. Infrastructure to me is really data center capacity, storage, Wi-Fi, whatever, all that stuff, yeah? And we can trust some people that they manage that this is well done. Secondly, today, we get this new layer of data. On data, I mean, I talked to my colleague here, in the fourth quarter of 2016, I counted that in this country alone, we had 133 events, sessions about big data. And in these sessions, we all repeat that big data is important. So my plea again is, so what can we do with this? Yeah? So infrastructure, data, and data to many people is still that they like to have data, collect data. But we know that the next step is to analyze data, to find out patterns, so you can manage these things. And the next evolution is, if you will, cognitive computing, predictability. I learn in time that many people still have difficult understanding that, so we have a lot to education. And then finally, when this infrastructure and data is managed, and people like here, we can manage that for the community, then the beautiful part becomes because businesses and society can start benefiting from that knowledge. And then they come to the point that on the area of mobility, of healthcare, of energy, or water management, they come up with applications that, and that's my point, individuals in the end benefit from these solutions. And individuals want to pay for these solutions. their personal life is impacted positively with the solutions. So the net of my statement is that I say, listen, to me, we are entering a data-driven economy. So there's no debate at all anymore that data is relevant. So we better make the best of it. But I like to move the discussion into the area, assume it's there, assume it's safe, assume it's affordable. What do we do with these things? And how can we reach individuals, companies that benefit? That loop is something that we need to lead when we leave this door later today.
Thank you very much. I can call you Harry, right? Okay. I have also, thank you very much for your speech. I have a question for you. You talked about infrastructure and data, how to manage data. But how can you create an added value based on infrastructure and data without creating chaos or complexity?
Well, chaos is a strategy as well.
Organized chaos.
But let me give you this example. Today we talked about Singapore, Stockholm, all these beautiful things. I add another example. It's the city of Bari in Italy. Bari in Italy had an industry that was fishing. But for some reason, due to climate change, the fish was not coming anymore. So what did these guys do? They used technology to put sensors in the sea, if you will, simplified version I give you now, to see when the fish was coming. So only when the fish was coming, poor fish, the ships went out. They knew exactly how much fish was coming, so they managed the waste management, and the people on the shore had an industry again living up. So I'm using this example to say, listen, we need to give a lot of examples. Don't think in fear, don't think in data privacy. These things need to be managed, but the majority should be what is possible, what can be done, and how can you impact the lives of individuals and industries. That's the way forward in my view.
Switch, okay.
Karima, I have a question for you.
Pardon me?
I have a question for you.
Oh, tell me.
No, that's out of protocol.
Okay. Perhaps later on. Okay. Thank you very much, Harry. Jacques, my dear colleague, the floor is yours.
Okay, intriguing question. Well, I could argue that data is simple. It's only zeros and ones. How simple can it be? While policy is weirdly complex. That's about messy topics like health, traffic, aging, economy, whatever. That's really complex. Yeah.
If you say data is simple, can you explain that?
Well, I'm from Eindhoven University of Technology, so basically I think, it's just technology, it can be solved. Many smart people are developing all kind of very sophisticated technical solutions, developing a rapid pace, so that will work out. I think the real challenges are much harder and not related to technology, but in the end of the day, everything is about people. I think in your example of the traffic, it's about, okay, what do we value, what deal do we make, what do we find important, rather than a data solution. If we agree on, okay, this is the crucial thing we have to deal with in transport, okay, then we found the solution. But first, people have to give up their previous positions and to give up. I also think that, I stop talking about just all issues of big data, just go to work and make sure that people can take advantage of it and take profit. Yeah, I also strongly support that, with one caveat, in the sense that what people are going to profit. Your fishing example, I don't know if I really understood it, but I thought the end of the story was, okay, then the ocean was empty, and what next? Yeah. Okay. There's a risk there if you enable a limited collection of all people to access the data, have control of the data, take advantage of the data, and do things with the data that's not in all benefit. Of course, there are these days very interesting examples of what's going to happen. But I would give it a much more positive twist, especially in government and the cities. You have to deal with many stakeholders, many people that have part of the puzzle, that have certain position, that want to go somewhere, that want to move forward. I think that having a shared view on the data can be important tool to bring them together around the table and to discuss, okay, this is what we see, these are our shared facts, and now let's try to understand how we can make steps forward.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jacques. Well, you see the wheel is still running, so that means we are on the right track, I hope. So I would like to ask Peter to give a reaction on both, or on Jacques, or on Harry.
I think I've missed something.
Okay, you see?
We are discussing here the holy grail of data. But last week I was watching this film of Cambridge Analytica, this hidden camera of News 4, and the response of the Facebook man. And we actually should accept that the people own their own data, and we should empower that. And then what you can do, if I own my own data, I see how I travel, and then you can help me to travel better. And if you don't solve mobility in the cities, you can solve all the other things. Floating houses, I love that. Floating houses, a modular city that you can plug, play, and pray together, etc. I love that. But if you don't solve mobility, you will not solve anything. So in my view, you should try to solve mobility, take data, and try to solve it. And we have this app, you've got the NS app, or you've got OV 9292. There's so much you can do if you do it properly. But I own my own data, and I should really plead, please start something about data liberation. Yeah? I must own my own data. We have got GDPR, it will not go away. Okay. And it's not a business for IBM to overload us with yet another computer. Although I really value IBM and Dr. Watson and the great technologies that you develop. But I own my own data, and it's not a holy grail, data science.
Okay. Harry?
Yeah. So I like to switch a little bit gears here, because I also think that we should step away from technology a little bit. And I'll give you some examples, and hopefully these examples we share is of benefit for you. You know, in this country, we declared what we call a digital manifest, like you have many in these countries. And this digital manifest is composed of 5 areas of attention. And if you think about these 5, and I'll name them quickly, you see, hey, this might be a really holistic approach how to bring the family together and move on. So the first one is really about talent. You know, we have many of the human capital agendas in this country, again over 133. So we need to do an effort to have this human capital there. Secondly, we see that thanks to technology, there are some areas where we simply need to come at level, yeah, like education, like energy, like water management. There where we need a government for doing that. The third area is a complete new area. That's the area of the blockchains, the startups, the fintechs, new business areas. They use technology to create new businesses. The fourth area in the digital manifest is that we list a few things that are really relevant to crack the code. If we do see, and we do see that in this world, that there's becoming a bigger gap between rich and poor, also in this country, we cannot neglect that. But the point is, some people need to focus on that one, not everybody. Same for data privacy, same for cybersecurity, same for all these issues. And the fifth thing is basically that, and that's key in this country. I mean, Holland is a stamp. It's a stamp in the world. We do not have enough money, we do not have nothing, but we do have each other. So the way we cooperate in this country, you know, will be crucial. So my vote would be that areas like Den Bosch, they claim something that they do for the nation. If all the cities in this country are fixing the mobility issues, are fixing the healthcare issues, then we don't use each other well enough. So that level of governance needs to be done. Yeah. And then my final, again, you are all leaders in your area. So what we hope, what I hope, is when you leave, you think about this conference, but you bring some new ideas, some new approaches in action to get going, because that's really elementary in my view.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Yeah.
Jacques, would you like to add a few things?
Well, you just mentioned everything in the digital agenda. Do you think the agenda is complete? We know what to do now?
At least people dare to say, this is it. You know, you have this idea that you're debating with each other where we go for dinner tonight. And for weeks we are saying, unless somebody says, okay, it's enough, we go to the Chinese, tonight at 8 o'clock, Louis will pay, Peter will do the driving, and there we go.
Okay.
So what do? You break through a discussion that goes on forever. And then Louis says, hey, can we go to Van der Valk instead of the Chinese? Okay, fine. But then it's done. So I think, you know, rather than debating agendas for many, take one and make it work. You know, that's the shift I would like to encourage.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Peter?
It all sounds like old-style management. In my view, we need self-organizing capability, and we really can do that with data if we do it properly. And the algorithms, the real algorithms, will be worth a lot of money. If we solve in smart mobility the algorithms, and we design the algorithms, get them to use, it could be great. I don't think that we will be able, in this incredibly complex world, with the incredibly complex cities, to actually design them completely. It's an evolutionary process, and we should increase the self-organizing capability, and that's what technology can help us do if policy is okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. I would like to invite the audience to react on this. Who dare? Okay, I thought so. Henk?
But Peter, at the moment that the algorithms are that smart, they don't need you any longer. So it will be the end of mankind. No Chinese.
Okay. Would you like to okay. Peter?
No Chinese anymore.
Okay. Who else? Okay. Comments? Okay. Let me go. Arnold. Okay. Hans, can you please? Okay.
Okay. I used to clean my phone, and I deleted the Lyft and Uber apps, which I've been using in recent weeks, which were really excellent, and which showed indeed that you can have smart mobility, yeah, with very clever algorithms. I talked a lot to the drivers also. They told me especially about the economic incentives that Uber and Lyft drivers have to be in the right place where demand is foreseen. There's only one problem. Those economic incentives are not used for the road. So we still have congestion. Yeah? And this reminded me of the thing what late Piet Rietveld once said. He said, actually in mobility, for instance, we have enough knowledge to solve the problems. But we don't have the political will to create those mechanisms, those institutions, which solve the basic scarcity, namely the road. Yeah? The road is open for everybody. So there we see, for me, part of the problem is, yes, we can improve the algorithms for smart mobility, but my view would be, with many others, that actually the tree of knowledge is quite filled there. But we can't use it because we don't have the right institutions and political will there. So I would like to see your response there. Do we really need such more smartness in mobility?
Okay. 1 second. So I will bring the mic to my speakers.
I love what you said.
Okay. Peter?
It is so true what you said. We have to change that. Now, take Erasmus University. We are 30,000 people, if not more, 80,000 employees, staff, etc., and about 29,000 students. Yeah? And that creates an incredible traffic flow. And we as a university would have the possibility, if we know how people travel, where they come from and so forth, to do some shifting and to do some load balancing. Yeah? And we could give them financial incentives to do that. And then we should be able to go to the railway people and buy capacity. We should have a wholesale system for public transport. And we've got to start thinking holistically, that's a beautiful word, isn't it? Holistically about how we get that done. But I share your frustration. Yeah, I was member of the file, the road pricing project, seen all the discussions, etc. And guess what? We were having discussions without real data. We couldn't do real simulations. We didn't use MATSIM, multi-agent transport simulator tools, to actually show this is what you do. And if you use this sort of incentive scheme, probably this is what is going to happen. And we had the theoretical models, but we could not load them with real data. And that's what we can do now. That's a fantastic opportunity, Karina.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. So the slot. If we look at the statement, big data, small decisions, in one word.
Big data, huh?
The statement, do you agree or not? Big data, small decisions.
No, I don't agree.
It's there, so I agree.
Okay. Jan?
I also don't fully agree.
Okay. So that means I cannot conclude this session. So I would like to invite you for the next time. So, okay. The time... You're well in time. Okay, I'm well in time. So I would like to say there is no conclusion because we need more and more discussion on this. And I also found out that we can also talk about hidden big data. So that would be a sub-topic for the next time. So I would like to thank my speakers. Jacques, thank you very much. Harry, thank you very much. Peter, thank you very much. Thank you all.